you something from 5 top historians, 2 of whom are Pulitzer Prize winners, James McPherson, Gordon Wood, top schools in the country, but 5 of them. They felt compelled to write a letter to the New York Times. And among other things, they wrote this on the 1619 Project. On the American Revolution, pivotal to any account of our history, the project asserts that the founders declared the colonies independence of Britain in order to ensure slavery would continue. This is not true, they say. If supportable, the allegation would be astounding. Yet every statement offered by the project to validate it is false. Some of the other material in the project is distorted, including the claim that for the most part, quote unquote, Black Americans have fought their freedom struggles alone. They go on. The 1619 Project has not been presented as the views of individual writers, views that in some cases, as on the supposed direct connections between slavery and the modern corporate practices, have so far failed to establish any empirical veracity or reliability and have been seriously challenged by other historians. Instead, the project is offered as an authoritative account that bears the imprimatur and credibility of the New York Times. Those connected with the project have assured the public that its materials were shaped by a panel of historians and have been scrupulously fact-checked. Yet the process remains opaque. The names of only some of the historians involved in the release and the extent of their involvement as consultants and fact-checkers remains vague. The selective transparency deepens our concern. You started this 1776 project to counter this distortion of the history that these historians talk about.
Absolutely. You know, Mark, there are 2 ways to prevent people from competing. One, to deny them by law, the way we did under segregation. But the more insidious way is to convince them that they don't have to compete. That because of their history of oppression, that your oppressor is obligated to be responsible for your future. That is a recipe for absolute disaster for people. It says if you're robbing and killing one another, it's not your fault. If you're having babies out of wedlock and not taking care of them, it's not your fault. If you're eating too much and you're overweight, it's not your fault. It's structural and distant. That's like in the 60s, the doors were locked from the outside. And so we fought to open those doors. But 1619 says to Blacks, those doors are still locked from the outside. And in 1776, we say no. As C.S. Lewis said, this is a door that's locked from the inside. You have the right of self-determination. And the 1619 said that these conditions of history dictate your present. And we at 1776 offer evidence to the contrary. They say that capitalism is hostile to the interests of Blacks. Well, there are 20 Blacks who were born slaves who died millionaires. How is that possible if slavery were responsible for the decline of people? For an example, one woman, Biddy Mason, was born 1818 in Mississippi, and she couldn't read or write. And her master moved, he was a Mormon and moved to Salt Lake City. She walked behind a wagon for 1,000 miles tending to the sheep. She had 3 babies by him. And when she got to Salt Lake City, he moved to California, and that was a free state. A judge freed her. And as a result, she was a midwife, and she earned $1.50 a day. She saved her money for 10 years and purchased property in what is now downtown LA and got into real estate. And eventually, when she died, she was worth about $670,000. And she is the founder of the AME Church that's still operating. And her grandson became one of the wealthiest Blacks. So there are countless stories like this of Blacks in that period who achieved against the odds. And those traditions continue. For instance, 1619 says that the decimation of the family can be traced to racism. Well, between 1930, let's look at the evidence. Between 1930 and 1940, During the Depression, when there was a 25% unemployment rate, the unemployment rate in the black community was 40%. We had the highest marriage rate of any other group. Elderly people could walk safely without being fearful of being mugged by their grandkids. If racism were responsible, then how could we have accomplished that? So our essays by our scholars and our activists, we provide evidence of this. It was our Christian faith that helped us to maintain standards. There was a church, a Mother Bethel Church in Philadelphia, where the members were taxed $1 a week, and they had their own welfare system. But you couldn't obtain welfare if you were slothful, or if you were lazy, or if you were a drunk. So we had moral standards, even during the time of segregation and slavery. And it was the strong content of our character as a people, which enabled us to withstand the horrors of oppression. But 1619 is cheating black children by telling them that their only lot in life is to be a victim. And Mark, has horrendous kind of national security implications too. Can you imagine if 1619 is being taught in 3,000 schools around the country, and the black children grow up believing that they are a victim of a racist society, and they become 18 and that's all they're fed? Why would they want to defend this nation against foreign invaders or become a member of law enforcement and protect us domestically? So we have got to challenge it, but we cannot challenge it by writing papers and having conferences. That's why the 1776, we've assembled not just thinkers, but activists.
I want to pursue this with you.
Okay.
This activism point. It's very, very important, because you're saying, let's not exchange white papers, because nobody cares. And nobody can print more than the New York Times anyway.
Right.
So you're saying we need to get into an activism.
We need a ground game.
We need a ground. So when we come back, I want you to explain that to us a little bit.